Well, having an outdoor rink can be tons of fun, but also a significant risk. Lawyer Sabrina Seibel from Virk Personal Injury Law is joining us this morning, talking about the responsibilities that come with that much fun. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Yes, so it's that time of year where everyone wants to make the most of this cold weather, but
Oh, yeah.
there's certainly some safety and legal implications that you want to think about. So, in terms of safety, you want to implement safety precautions if you are going to be building an outdoor rink or using a neighbor's. So, one of the most important is to make sure children are wearing a helmet, and any helmet is better than no helmet, but a hockey helmet is really preferred for any skating activities. And that's because bicycle helmets are basically single-use helmets. So hockey helmets are designed to sustain multiple impacts, so that's important. Depending on the age of the child, you may want to use elbow and knee pads. You want to ensure there's adequate adult supervision. Ensure that children are dressed appropriately for the conditions. If it's cold, you want multiple layers covering those ears, warm socks. And if there's going to be any skating happening after it's dark, make sure there's adequate lighting so everyone can see what they're doing.
That's a good point, too. And there's other risks, too, liability risks. Like, what if a kid shoots a puck over the fence and takes out a window or something like that, or hits somebody next door?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely a lot of risk if you're going to be inviting, especially other children as well, to your property. So you want to make sure you're implementing those safety precautions. You want to ensure there's adequate adult supervision. I know some people implement a rule similar to swimming pool, in that if your child is on the ice, that their parent should actually be there supervising. And there needs to be clear rules for things such as hockey, and enforcement and adult supervision for those rules.
Now,
And then,
oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, in the event that someone is injured on your property, that's something that a claim could be made, and you want to make sure that you have proper insurance coverage in place. And so that's something you need to do in advance. You want to look at your policy closely and look at the wording.
That's what I was going to ask you. Does the typical homeowners policy cover that, or do you need a third-party liability coverage, or up your liability coverage?
Yeah, usually most homeowners policies do have third-party liability coverage, but you're going to want to speak to your broker and verify that you have that coverage. Ask your broker about any exclusions, and you also want to ensure that you have sufficient limits to protect yourself in the event that someone is injured on your property.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of claims like this? How common is it? And what is the compensation like? How is it broken down?
Yeah, so the compensation, if someone is injured, there's different categories: pain and suffering, medical expenses, loss of income if you're talking about an adult potentially. And we don't see a ton of these claims, but certainly anytime someone suffers a personal injury and they think someone else may be at fault, it's really important that you speak to a personal injury lawyer and find out what your options are, because you may be facing medical expenses that you just can't afford.
Yeah, we only have 30 seconds left, but are there any exceptions to homeowners liability?
So, I mean, there is this idea that there is some risk willingly assumed by participants that are engaging in a risky activity, such as skating. But again, it's very fact specific. So, you're going to have to look carefully at what steps and precautions were implemented, and how any injury occurred.
Okay, lots more information online. We'll link up your socials and website at chch.com. Sabrina Seibel from Virk Personal Injury Law. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Great. Thanks for having me.